A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our 30 minutes of a lunch talk here. My name is Kim Pong, everybody, and I am the CEO of StrengthsAsia. StrengthsAsia is a company based here in Singapore, and at the very core of everything that we do at StrengthsAsia is really about helping organizations and managers and leaders build cultures of engagement. By engagement, which simply means this, right? How do we get leaders, managers, and executives, right, like all of us here, in becoming more influential and more impactful in our work and in our relationships, and in the process, become a whole lot more energized and a whole lot more satisfied in the things that we do and in the relationships that we have. I want to welcome everybody, for this time here. We're going to take this time from between 12:33 right now, all the way to about 1 p.m. For me to share with you for the topic today, the smart heart, increasing our emotional intelligence. Now, this topic is a really hot topic, of late, especially in the corporate sector, right? I mean, in the past, emotional intelligence may not be something that is so, prominent or so important, but, I think in recent corporate, culture transformation, environment and platforms, EI has become a very, very much talked about topic. So why is EI, emotional intelligence, so important to every one of us? Hopefully in the next 25 plus minutes, I could really kind of share with everybody, some really quick nuggets on why it is important and how we can actually become a whole lot more smarter in becoming more emotionally intelligent here. Now, in the course of my sharing here, ladies and gentlemen, all I like to do is to ask you, be open, and interact with me, where I'm asking you for the interactions here. And we're going to use the chat box a lot, well, quite a fair bit today, in responding to some of the questions that I have. So can I just ask everybody right now, go into the chat box and kind of introduce yourself a little bit and say something like, hi, I'm Kim Pong, I'm from Singapore, right? That's all right. So everybody just go into the chat box, type something on the chat box so that I know that, you have found it and you're able to do something with it, right? So I'm just going to type something here. I'm Kim Pong from Singapore, right? And that's it, right? So go ahead, contribute into the chat box. And as I do this, I'm just going to wait for different ones of you to kind of come in. So I see Rilin, I see Bilan, I see Karen, I see Alvin Poor, all from Singapore, Claro Look from Singapore, from FNN, LL from Singapore, Clement from Singapore, Meili from Singapore, lovely. Carolyn, so good to see you too. Carolyn, love to see you. Elaine, yes, hi. Who else is there? Margaret from SG, welcome. Julie Chiu, welcome. And Julie Chiu is from FNN. Where else are you guys from? Hi, Woon. And I got WS Woon from Singapore. Annie Tan, hello. Anybody else? Keep it coming. I think we had a really good crowd today, at about 30 plus 40 people here this afternoon. Wonderful. Well, keep introducing yourself, in the chat box, and I'll kind of look at it. Hello, Elise. Thanks for putting into the chat box here, and Matthew, thank you very much, for coming to the talk here. So, quick question, everybody. Let's start it off. I want to start off with questions, right? So the first question is how are you today, right? How are you today? So very quickly, everybody, can I ask you to use the chat box and tell me, how are you doing today, right? How are you today? Go ahead and use the chat box. Would love to hear from you. How are you today? All right, so while you guys are typing in, I'll just patiently wait here for the first few responses on the chat box to be coming in very shortly. My question to you is this: how are you today? Simple question, right? So Rilin says, good, working at office, feeling good to have face contact. Absolutely, right? Julie says, I am fine, thank you, right? LL says, tired, but generally okay. Millie says, busy. Karen says, good and positive. Quite okay from Alvin. Mel says, great. Hi, Mel, good to see you. Elaine says, I'm fine. Sherry says, doing well. Looking forward to insights so that I can share with my team. Clement says, feeling satisfied because the prize giving ceremony went really well. That's awesome. All right. Jesslyn says, and I am fine. Helen says, great, feeling happy. Busy, but good. Just had my lunch, feeling satisfied. Annie says, tiring after 3 hours of meeting this morning. So a variety of responses here, right? How are you today? Well, I'm going to ask the same question right now, but this time around, I'm just going to switch it up a little bit differently here, right? So my first question to you was, how are you today? Now I'm going to ask you a different question, similar question, but just slightly different. And the question is how are you feeling today, right? How are you feeling today? How are you feeling right now, for that matter? So go ahead and use the chat box and share with me, how are you feeling today? Let's go for the answers here, right? So how are you feeling today? So when I say, how are you doing? Everybody says, good, I'm this, I'm that, great, whatever, right? So how are you feeling today? So Sherry says, I'm feeling tired. Okay. Somebody says, I'm feeling refreshed, far长是吗? Yeah. And Meili says, I'm feeling productive. Helen says, I'm feeling joyful. Annie says, I'm feeling exhausted. Rilin says, I'm feeling good. Clara says, I'm feeling fine. The sun is out, beautiful. And I actually, you know what? The sun is out, but the weather is still kind of cool. And I kind of really appreciate that kind of balance here, isn't it? Margaret says, I'm feeling great. Clement says, very relieved because a big piece of work has been completed. Karen says, feeling okay, a bit tired. And Woon says, I'm feeling great. Now, think about this, right? Two simple questions. How are you doing, right? How are you today? And how are you feeling today? Actually, elicited two very distinctly different answers. Don't you think that when I say, how are you feeling today, the answers that you give me is a little bit more specific, it's a little bit more of what you are going through at the current present moment. So the way we answer the question, very often, right, we can say, I am tired, I'm sad, or whatever, right? Or I could say, I feel. Let me give you a very simple example here. Everybody knows Groot, right? And very often when you say, how are you doing? Oh, I'm busy, busy. Well, I'm busy. Well, I'm Groot, right? Or you could say, I feel Groot, right? Pardon the pun on the words here, right? I'm Groot, or I feel Groot. Now, what does this mean? Every time when we use the word I am, there's a certain sense of permanence in it. So so it's almost like, when you say I am, it is a description of your being, right? It's a description of your identity, right? And essentially it is a little bit more permanent when you use the word I am. How are you doing? I'm sad. How are you doing? I'm good. How are you doing? I'm okay, right? And they kind of say, I'm okay, they're kind of like, I'm not so sure, it's like, is that your identity or is that something else? But when you use the word I feel, it is less of a permanent thing, but it's more of what is happening in the moment for you. Now, what I would like you to do is this, right? I'm going to be sharing with you some slides regarding I am and I feel. And I want to ask yourself this question. Do you say this frequently? Or have you ever said them before? And which one do you say more often in your life, right? So let's start on the first one, right? The first one is this, I'm sad. Or do you say, I feel sad? If somebody asks you, hey, what's going on, man? What's happening? You go, I'm sad because something just messed up. Or do you say, I feel sad because something just messed up? So very quickly on the chat box here, right? Give me a response here. Do you say I am, or do you say I feel? So go ahead, everybody, please use the chat box and respond to me, right? Yeah. So Annie says, I am. LL says, I am. What about the rest of you? I am or I feel? Margaret says, I feel. Beautiful. What else? Julie says, I feel. Bilan says, I feel. Fa Chang says, I am, right? So there's a good balance of I am and I feel here. What about the next one here, right? The next one is this, I'm angry or I feel angry. Which one would you say? Do you say I am or do you say I feel? I am, I am, I am, I am. A lot of I ams here, isn't it? I'm angry with you, Johnny. I'm angry with you, little boy. I'm angry with you, boss. I'm angry with you, Julie. It's like I am or do I feel, right? So a lot of I ams here. What about the next one? I am disappointed or I feel disappointed. What is your answer? I am disappointed or I feel disappointed. Again, a lot of M's, right? M's are coming in. I am disappointed. I am disappointed. I am disappointed. You can see that on the chat box here. What about the next one here? I'm not a confident person, or I don't feel very confident. Which one do you say? I'm not confident to do this, or I don't feel very confident to do this. What is your state of mind here? Right? So KW says, I don't feel. Helen says, I don't feel. Annie says, I am. Matthew says, I feel. Margaret says, I don't feel, right? Very cool. So again, I think there's a good spread of I am and I feel. Okay, the last one, right? The last one. And this one, we drop the feel here, but similarly, it conveys the same idea here, right? I am a procrastinator, or I procrastinate. Which one are you? If you are someone that procrastinates, what do you say? I'm a procrastinator, or I procrastinate, right? So a number of us says it's the latter, I procrastinate. Now, why is this important? Because when you say I am something, it alludes to a certain identity, it alludes to a certain state of mind that is very much fixated in your consciousness here. But when you say I feel about something, essentially it's telling you, well, for that moment, that's what my emotion is like. I feel angry, I feel disappointed, I feel sad. And going forward here, you have a choice to make from today onwards. Do you use the word I am, or do you use the word I feel? Remember what I said just now. I am is more permanent, it's about being, it's about identity, whereas I feel describes you in the moment. And the differentiation in the two is actually very critical to how can we become more emotionally intelligent. But first, let's talk about what are emotions. Well, according to a psychologist, Robert Plutchik, he identified that there are 8 basic emotions in our life. There's fear, anger, sadness, joy, disgust, surprise, trust, and anticipation. And according, to Aristotle, right, he identified there's 9 basic emotions: anger, friendship, fear, shame, kindness, pity, indignation, envy, and love. And according to Charles Darwin, he identified more than 30 kinds of emotions that are commonly shared between human beings and animals, right? And he identified suffering to blushing. Can you imagine blushing is an emotion according to Charles Darwin, and that animals actually do blush? I'm just wondering how many of us actually know that, right? That animals do blush. So yeah, I'm sure, Raylene, I see that there's compassion. I'm sure compassion is in there somewhere, right? So I guess the list here is not exhaustive, right? The list is not exhaustive. Emotions is such a wide repertoire and topic in the things that we feel about. The question of emotions, the questions that we have to ask around emotions are actually very important and relevant, to our lives and to our relationships and to our work every day. So the first question I think we need to ask is, do our emotions define us, right? So if we subconsciously saying, I am, well, in some extent, it is actually defining us, but is that really what you mean? So do our emotions define us? Secondly, are negative emotions good for us? In today's very positive, affirming world, very often we are trying to tell people, right? Oh, don't be negative, right? Reject all negativity. But the question here is this, it is a fact that we feel sad. It is a fact that we feel angry. It's a fact that we feel jealous and envious and all that. All these are negative emotions to some extent. So the question is this, are these negativity good for us? Or do we want to negate negativity in our lives such that there are no negative emotions and our life is all about positive emotions? Go think a little bit about that. The third question that we could ask is, how are emotions useful for me in my life and in my work? And this is where I think both positive and both negative emotions comes into very relevant and powerful play here, right? How are they useful for me in my relationships, in my work, in my learning, in the things that I do every day? How are emotions useful to me? And the next one is this, how can I become more self-aware? How can I become more emotionally intelligent? So that segues us into the topic here today, right? Emotional intelligence. So very quickly, everybody, what do you understand when I say, hey, what is emotional intelligence? What would your definition from your own personal experience be like? So everybody, can I ask you to use the chat box and share with me, your response? What do you think is emotional intelligence? So go ahead, use the chat box. I'll just wait for your response very quickly. Up, relationship management. Yep, that's part of it. Ability to control emotions. Interesting, right? The ability to control emotions. What else is there? Empathy. Lovely, right? It's empathy, the ability to insert yourself into the shoes of others. And Jeanette says anger management. Yeah, how do we respond to anger? Yeah, absolutely. What else is there? Very quickly, keep the chats coming. What do you think in your own personal experience is emotional intelligence? Doris says to manage self-expectations. Clement says the ability to regulate personal emotions to interact successfully with others. I love that. Eileen says, understand my emotions in relations to others. And he says, how good are you in controlling anger and emotion? So the word control has been coming up quite frequently in this chat box. Yeah, controlling emotions, controlling anger. Elaine says a positive way of communication. All right. So thank you very much, everybody, for responding. And Meili says responding appropriately instead of reacting. Yeah, how do you respond instead of reacting? Well, very quickly. Emotional. I did some research on the dictionary and it says emotional means relating to a person's emotions, straightforward, right? And what is intelligence? Intelligence is the ability to acquire and to apply knowledge and skills. So when you combine emotional intelligence together, this is what I come up with, right? Emotional intelligence is the ability to relate to our emotions, right? To acquire and to apply a person's emotions. Let me say that again. Emotional intelligence is the ability to relate, to acquire, and to apply a person's emotions. Emotional intelligence, ladies and gentlemen, begins when you become aware of what you're feeling, right? And then deciding how you're going to respond to it, right? That's what emotional intelligence, that's where it begins. We become aware, oh my gosh, I'm feeling happy, feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling scared, feeling fearful. And then the next step is, what is your response? That is emotional intelligence. So very quickly, how would you respond to your emotions, right, in the following situations here? So I'm going to give you a scenario. I'm going to give you three options, A, B, or C, right? And very quickly, once you read that, I want you to very quickly select one answer, A, B, or C, just one answer, and put it into the chat box. That's it, right? So I'm going to turn off my my picture here so they can see everything properly here, right? So let's go. So the first one is this, right? Your colleague John just did the same thing to you again and it upset you, it made you angry. Option A, you tell yourself, forget it. That's life. You got to roll with the punches. There are more important things to do than to focus on John. Move on. And B, you get angry and you tell yourself, John is always doing this to me. What's wrong with him? And why does he always pick on me? I'm just doing my job. And why is the boss always allowing him to get away with this kind of behavior? Or C, you think about what John did and why it had always bothered you. You wanted to know what's triggering you. You seek out a friend to confide, to figure out how to respond better. What is your answer? A, B, or C? Go for it, everybody, very quickly. Right? So this is your normal go-to behavior, everybody. Very cool. Lovely, lovely. So I get some A's, I get some B's, I get some C's, right? Let's go to the next question now. The next question is this, ladies and gentlemen. You came back home after a long day's work and no one at home, right? Your children, your husband, your wives acknowledge you. Nobody acknowledged you. Nobody seemed to care about you. Everyone is just doing their own thing here, right? A, you tell yourself, it's just that you're tired. Don't blame them. You know, you're being too tough. You know, you had a really, really tough day here, right? Or B, what's wrong with this family? You know, where did I go wrong here? Do you guys know how hard I work today for the family? Nobody appreciates what I do for them. Or C, you ask yourself, hey, why did you feel so bad about not being acknowledged by your family members? Did the experience at work that day make you feel the way you felt that day? Right? What is your answer? A, B, or C? Right? So a variety of answers are coming into the chat box right now. Beautiful. Now the third question, everybody. You mess up your presentation to your potential client and you lost the deal to your competitor. Or you could say you messed up your presentation to your boss and you lost the opportunity to impress your boss, right? What do? A, you binge eat just to take away the stress of failure, or you just watch Netflix the whole entire day just to de-stress, right? Or B, you think about what you did and ask, why do you keep screwing it up all the time? And C, you accept responsibility for the failure and you post-mortem it with your friends to learn from the experience. What would your answers be, right? So very interestingly, for this last one, a lot of C's here, right? So what does this mean? A, B, or C? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you select A, B, and C, there are implications to that, to your emotional intelligence, to the way you understand your emotions, you're aware of it, and to the way you're responding to it. If you're selecting answers for A, ladies and gentlemen, you are bottling up your emotions, right? You're basically just ignoring it and say, forget it. Don't pay attention to it. Just move on, right? It's just me. It's just the way I'm feeling, right? You bottle up the emotion. And the research by a psychologist by the name of Bush Bradman, right? He found out that when people begin to bottle up their emotions, in their day-to-day lives, they could possibly show negativity and aggressive behaviors, right? They could become passive aggressive, or they become negative, right? So when you bottle up emotions, potentially, you are actually, preparing yourself a fuel tank, right, for negativity here. Now, if you select the second answer, which is B, then you are brooding, right? Brooding means stewing, right? In Cantonese, we say "po tong," so you're stewing, right? You're basically looking at all the negative situation in the outcome and say, my gosh, why this? Why that? Why me? Why is he always like this? Why am I always like this, right? Did I do a really bad job? You go from an idea of basically an understanding of emotion to a fact of what is happening, and then finally drawing an opinion, right, to what you are doing, which is often very negative, brooding. But if you select option C, ladies and gentlemen, then your response to your emotions is that you are learning. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about, hey, why am I feeling this way? It is not about I am this, but it's about, hey, I feel this. What is going on? Our emotions are not our identity. Our emotions are our moments of significance, right? When it's like a needle just prick you, you go, oh, ouch, it's painful. That's a moment of significance. Something just hurts. Our emotions are like the pain in our body or like the joy in our body. It allows us, to notice what is going on with us. Listen to what Viktor Frankl said. Viktor Frankl, was a psychologist, and he survived a Nazi camp through very horrendous situation. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning and Purpose. If you have not read this book before, may I suggest get the book. It is a fascinating read on a man's struggle for survival through torture, through suffering, and yet never ever giving up hope on meaning and purpose of his existence here. And he said this: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is the power to choose our response. And in our response, in that space, lies our growth and our freedom. I love this quote very, very much. Between stimulus, the emotion, and the response, our action, there's a space, right? In that space is the power to choose our response, right? And in that response lies our ability for growth and freedom here. So what is your response, right? Do you go by a knee-jerk reaction when somebody, makes you disappointed? Immediately you stress out, immediately you go and watch Netflix, or do you do something else, right? So there are 4 simple ideas here that I'd like to suggest to you on how you can actually decide what to do in that space, right? In the response that you should be giving. 1 is to acknowledge, 2 is to accept, 3 is to assess, and 4 is to act. Acknowledge, accept, assess, and act. The first one is to acknowledge. Acknowledge your emotions. Face your thoughts, face your emotions, right? In other words, it is there. Don't go like, how come this thing is there, right? No, if you're angry, say that, okay, I notice anger is there. If you're sad, all right, notice, acknowledge sadness is there. You're jealous, yeah, okay, jealousy is there, envy is there, right? Acknowledge it. Because if you acknowledge it, you become aware. And everyone will tell you this, right? People who are coaches, who are leaders, who are trainers, who are psychologists, they'll tell you, awareness is the first step to engaging people and yourself. If you're unaware, you can't engage people, you can't engage yourself. So to acknowledge the existence of the emotion is to become aware that, hey, even I can go through an emotion like this, for example. The second step here is to accept, right? Accept the emotion. Don't question it. You can't help how you feel. Quick story here. When I was dating my wife, in the early days, right? I never understood why she feels sad or moody or, or happy. I couldn't figure out her emotions, right? And then especially when she's sad or when she is unhappy, I will always tell her, hey, can you step out of it, Chun? Can you stop feeling sad? Can you not do this? Can you not do that, right? And to be honest, she took a lot of my, my nonsense, right? For a long time, until one day she cannot tahan anymore, right? In Singapore, we say tak boleh tahan anymore. She said, Pong, can you just stop it, right? Can you just stop it? Because I can't help how I feel. And for the first time, as her boyfriend, right? I suddenly, it just hit upon me, my gosh, is there such a thing that I can't help how I feel? Now, I've never really quite understood that, but that is actually very true. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, right? We cannot help how we feel. We just experience the emotion, right? But we can help how we respond to that emotion, right? I can't help how I feel, but I can help how I respond to the emotion. And this is where it's the third step here. You assess. You assess the space, right, that the emotion has given birth to you. Because of the emotions, it's presented to you a space, an opportunity for you to consider your next step here. And to assess here is to claim that space. Do not give up that space so easily and relegate to habitual, sometimes negative behavior here, right? But ask yourself, all right, why am I feeling this way? Why am I excited? Why am I happy? Why am I sad? Why am I constantly angry with John all the time? I mean, that guy never changed, right? But I can't make him change. I could change myself. So why am I responding like this, right? And a lot of the whys here are tied into three very simple ideas here: our motivations, our values, and our intentions, right? So it is a really good opportunity to begin to assess, hey, what is my motivation in this instance here? What are the values that I stand for that's been violated here or that's not been noticed or embraced? Or what are my intentions that's been misunderstood or has been embraced and has been adopted, right? Understand this space here. And then last but not least, after you've done all this, go into the last piece here, which is to act. Act on your acknowledgement, on your acceptance, and on your assessment here. Act on doing something. And I always like to say, success is action. It's not about, oh, tomorrow I'll stop being angry for the rest of my life. That is impossible, because emotions are your calibrations to learning, right? Emotions is the moments of significance that will transform into your momentums of change that eventually allows you to find out who you are. Remember what I said, emotion doesn't define you, but because you understand what emotions are, they become moments of significance that you can take and transform into momentums of change that eventually will reveal, who you can be, which is your identity here. So, do little steps here, right? Learn from the experience and say, okay, if John do the same thing again, I will not respond the same way to him. I will not respond the same way I've been to myself. I'm going to do better. I'm going to change how I do better so that my life can be better. I want my life to be better despite of John. Does that make sense, right? And that is to act. So these are the 4 simple ideas here, guys, right? To increase our emotional intelligence. Number 1, acknowledge our emotions. Number 2, accept our emotions. Number 3, assess the opportunity or the space that your emotions have given birth to and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? My motivations, my values, and my intentions. And then finally, come up with something really simple. What can I do differently than before so that I can become a better human being, right? So time check, 1 p.m., perfectly on time. And I want to thank everybody. I'm just wondering, right, are there any questions? If there are, go ahead and quickly plonk into the chat box. So for those of you that want have a bit more time, you can stay back a little bit. If there are questions, I'll be more than happy to respond to them. But for those of you that needs to leave by now, let me just share one other slide for you. If you think that my talk has been useful and relevant to you and you want to find out more about how to increase your emotional intelligence, well, we are running a workshop called Strength-Based Emotional Intelligence Workshop. So Strength's got a lot to do with our motivations, with our values and our intentions here. How does your strength, right? How does your natural talent themes, how does your natural disposition, right, drive your emotional intelligence at work? So there are going to be 2 sessions that's happening. One is between 27th to the 28th of August, and this will be on the Zoom platform. And the second session is going to be on 18th of September, and this is going to be an in-person platform in a hotel somewhere, right? We are in the process of getting this to be skill futured. So I think, once that is true, you should be able to use your skills future entitlements to be able to do this, right? So if you want to register for this, my colleague Dina Heng has already put the registration link on the chat box. So go ahead and click on the link. Yeah, and if you're interested, sign up, and I'll see you guys, at the 2 sessions there, right? Or one of the 2 sessions there. So with that, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, NH, for the comments, Helen for the comments. True one link, yeah, for the comments. Thank you, everybody. So with that, have a great day, everybody. Weekend is coming. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe. Wear your mask. Social distance all the time, right? So take care, everybody. Adios. Bye-bye.
Think I'd try this a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks that I know. I'm getting tired of talking, and I need more of a show.